I've tried it multiple times. Doesn't generally work. Competition is always a hot topic. Rehabbing, some people do, some people don't. I suck at this, so if we pick that, well, I'm going to ask for a volunteer to help lead that. So it won't be me. Pricing, how do we get comps, run our ARVs? What are realistic ARVs? Are we looking forward, looking backward? How are we managing that? Repairs and value check, how are we managing and tracking and pricing that stuff? The last one, inventory management and cash management. So in our meetings with you guys, it's been fantastic to hear and discuss some of these things. Some of them have come up multiple times. So we said, hey, let's go ahead and figure out what's important to you, and we'll just drill down this list. If other things are not added, this is going to be kind of our marching orders for the next period of time. And we'll hit 2 or 3 of these if we can in a session, so we don't have to wait 12 months to get to the 10th one. All right. So with that said, anybody in here or anybody online have something that they want to add? Oh. Okay. Anything that's missing? It's from you guys. Pretty impressive group. Nobody online? Anybody online wants to add anything?
And maybe the people online can know the comments of what they want to talk about.
Well, what I'm going to do,
1, 2, 3s.
what I'm going to do is that, so you guys be prepared for that list. I'm going to stop, pause, and I'm going to ask each one of you individually for your top 3, and I'm going to put your sticky notes on the board for you.
They can type in the comments. I can do it also.
Or if you don't want to be heard, you can type them in the comments and Ryan will run them for you. Okay, any questions about what we're doing? Depending on the top 1 or 2 that hit today, if it's not something we have to prepare for, we'll just dive right in. Okay, and we'll plan to end this 90 minutes kind of is the target for the session. So 1 o'clock. Okay. Questions, comments before we go?
You don't have to write our name on the sticky.
You do not have to write your name on the paper.
What do you want them?
Now,
What do we write on?
so you actually don't have to write anything because I was just going to count the stickies, but I had an epiphany on the way this morning. If there's something that's like, oh my gosh, I need this today, put a 1 on your sticky note. Okay, I'll leave. There's a pen here you can pass around, or you can pick one.
You should put 1, 2, 3 on your sticky, because then it will allow people to.
We can do that.
Like number 2s are over here.
That was the original plan, but sometimes like herding cats around here.
Whatever has the most stickies, that'll be the order for now.
It'll be the order. But if you feel really strongly about I need, go ahead and put a 1 on so we can know, hey, in this group, there's like 5 1s. If they're right similar in size.
If a separate topic, just hands them Michael or myself.
Yeah. Any separate topic. Anybody want a pen? Grab your stickies and go. If you're online, go ahead and put your comments in so we can run those for you. If we don't have comments for you, then I will ask you specifically in a couple minutes.
Oh my God.
I'm talking like you guys.
Sticky board people. The glue is real expensive. Pretty great doing the number 1, 2, 3.
Unless you have a 1 that's burning. If you have 1 that's burning, go ahead and mark it. You can both vote if you want.
We're doing each, right? Both put them up there?
Yeah, if you want. I mean, one or either. And you decide if you want these guys to have a vote. Oh, yeah. Mr. Boss.
I figured we all would, yeah. I get 4 votes.
You want to do, well, you're fire, right?
Have a comment.
You should be putting 2 on there. 2 up. I did.
Come on.
Hey, sometimes losing.
financing.
We're not losing that
Totally want to handle these and Larry and all that stuff.
Hey, we're gonna lose, but
You're not gonna lose your shorts. That is okay. Exit now. We have stickers. There you go. Talk about creative mind.
you're putting this way. Good, perfect. Really?
Hey, Lisa, on yours, when you said financing, is that rental financing, creative financing? Which one were you talking about there?
I asked Chris and Brian for theirs. We put it back up.
I meant just the creative buying and financing.
Okay, thank you. And I got two for you. Did you have a third one?
The third one would be Digley.
Okay.
Yep.
Can't imagine.
And then
Single line moments for.
No, you're fine. No, I just wanted to eat. You're welcome.
Hey, Nick, yours says dig leads and dig lead compensation. I don't know what the dig lead compensation is.
Meaning if we get like, let's say, a referral partner, hang on.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, we'll have that as part of the discussion. Did you have do you have two others?
Can you hear me?
Which person are you doing? I have not done Nick. I haven't done Brian. I got
All right, let me do some quick math. Okay. Thank you for your participation. So our winners today are Dig Lead, Networking, and I think they were creative deal making, creative financing, creative deals. Okay.
So, hey, is everybody taking on notes or what? I guess everyone's on their own note taking. I got a break. I got like 2 more minutes.
So, yeah, so take your own notes. We don't have a secretary for this meeting, right? So take your own notes, what's important to you, what you're going to come back and share amongst your business partners. Okay, so
At Sergeant Arm for this meeting, it's hard for them to hear us if there's a lot of side conversation going on, so just be mindful of the side talk. Thank you.
all right, so we're gonna start with Dig Leads and networking. Okay, that was our top topic. So I didn't see any one, so I don't see any burning issues on any of them, but so what we have seen as we have sat down with you guys is, and part of the reason why we're doing this, what comes from Homevestors and what doesn't. We have a number of very successful franchisees, high-performing franchisees that sit down and say, well, that didn't come from, well, that didn't come from, well, that didn't come from, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. When we signed, we said up to 50% of our deals are going to come from our own efforts. Okay, that doesn't mean we don't leverage Homevestors, that we don't communicate. I mean, we still, because we're Homevestors, get some of those continuing business referrals. So let's give Homevestors the credit that's due. But Dig Leading and networking. So unless somebody wants to argue a different point, I am going to right off the bat discount driving around picking house addresses and putting them on a mailer. Okay, everybody knows you can do that. There's an app for that. There's people who have done it, that have people out doing it, and they're paying people to do that. I paid his brother to do that for me. We bought a house, I made money, but the net, it cost me the same amount to pay his brother as it did for me to just spend advertising. My cost per buy was about the same. So I decided it wasn't worth the hassle, right? So that's, unless somebody really, really wants or needs to talk about that, I'm just disassociating that from this conversation. Are we cool? All right. So really what we're talking about in digging is everything else that is associated with the stuff we should be doing on a daily basis, okay? Many of you have heard me say that everybody you know is a potential buyer, a potential seller, a potential investor, or a wannabe of one of those three. Typically, they want to be a franchise, or not franchise, an investor. They don't know how to get started. They have a job, whatever. You can be their conduit. We've had some very successful people. Spencer's not here. Spencer's ex-partner, who did really well, went to church with a guy who was a dentist, had a lot of money, didn't have a lot of time. And Brian was buying houses and sourcing this guy, and he bought a bunch of 3-2s in Mesa. Everybody's happy, okay? So networking, it's not just like when we say we're going after the people that potentially bring us leads. Networking is, I mean, if you've tried it all, who was I just talking to? Was on you were on a trip. So Paul was sharing with us. If you want to share, sorry, he was on a trip. Where were you? Montana. He was out in Montana, and there were a bunch of people there that were professionals, right? And as they got talking, he's like, "Oh my gosh, these guys are great prospects, right, for potential networking opportunities." And he didn't have a single card with him. Sorry to throw you under the bus.
No, it's fine.
Right?
I was like, I'm kicking myself. They all run separate nursing homes.
Oh, that's what it was. There's nursing homes. Oh my gosh, they all run separate nursing homes, and they're buddying it up, right? They're chumming in this trip, and he doesn't have a single card. Nursing homes. Oh my gosh, that is the new black, right? And I learned that from where's Alstrom? Where'd he go? So
That story just tells you how Paul is, that he actually needed business cards. Come on, right? He knows what I'm talking about.
so when I met with the Coons have some connections. The Coons have connections with senior living, and they've gotten a bunch of deals off. And I hadn't. I mean, we'll mail to senior papers and that kind of stuff, but man, we're in Phoenix. The number of senior facilities in Arizona would keep us all busy for a really long time, right? So we could do this as a group, we could do it individually, but that's the kind of networking where those deals are coming from. Whether you want to establish a pitch, put together a program. Mr. Morby, who at one point was going out and talking to attorneys, he had a pitch to say, hey, if you ever run into a situation like this, or Sandra would say, you probably have never run into a situation at a funeral home where somebody has come to you, they don't have the money to bury mom and dad, but they have a house and they can't get access to that money fast enough to bury mom or dad. Probably has never happened. Oh yeah, that happens. Well, what have you done? And would you be interested in a solution for that, right? That came from Carl Bassett. Convention 4 or 5 years ago. He tripped over that opportunity. He's like, why aren't we leaning into this? So that's the kind of networking stuff we're talking about. So what I want to do, again, this is best practices with you guys, those of you who, if it's not secret sauce, which I would argue that there isn't any secret sauce among us, share what you've done, your experiences, what you think works, doesn't, what are decent targets. I've thrown a couple out. I'll reserve a couple in case they don't come up, but I want to give you guys the opportunity to share and maybe you have what your approach is, what is the best approach, or what you think is the best approach, your experience, what's worked, not worked. If you don't have anything to say, then we'll just assume you're not doing it.
I think other real estate agents, the ones who usually are representing my buyers to my books they love the product. So then they want to come back and ask me, oh, do you have another one? And then I'll ask them, bring me something. If you get anything, I'm always telling them, I want to make this, I can make another house look just like this. If you get something that's not like a crap, give it to me, or come, so that's, I always work those agents just to see if I can get something.
Have you had any bring you anything yet?
Fortunately, I'm meeting with a lady right now, who I'm gonna get probably 3 tomorrow.
Okay, so she said real estate agents. I was shocked at the convention how many times I heard that. Has anybody else received referrals or leads from real estate agents? I mean, in this day and age, that's mind-boggling. So all of you who didn't raise your hand, the fact that there's like 8 of you who did, again, I don't know why we're not leaning into that. It is shocking. We just assume, why would they when I'm just going to list it, or maybe you're going to make it pretty, but I'm not, because I suck at rehabbing. So I mean, so the question is, how do we find them? How do we lean into that? Anybody have any ideas of how we, on real estate agents, would lean into that? Melissa mentioned one. Anytime she has somebody buy her house, she has a conversation with that agent who's buying her house. Hey, I have more coming. If you have any that's not like this, that you want me to turn into this, it's great icebreakers. There was another hand up.
So I was actually at lunch with one of my friends yesterday that does his whole business is based around working with agents, and essentially what he does is he sent out like 45,000 text messages to agents in Phoenix, and then essentially a text message said, I'm looking to buy off-market properties, blah, 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 distressed properties, text back, yes, no, I don't care about you, or interested in more information, right? And then he just keeps decreasing his list. He keeps getting smaller and smaller, but it keeps getting better and better and better.
Next question, yeah.
And then it's just the same thing. It's just him calling, and he's just connecting with these agents, and he's getting tons of deals from that. It's a lot of work, and it's taken a lot of work. But again, I think if we can just do it, I'm just doing it on a much smaller scale of just individual. There's no way I'm going through 45,000 text messages.
Well, so I tried to start this by saying, what are things we could do in kind of the normal course of business? I don't need another job. I know a lot of you are super busy, don't need another job.
Yeah.
So that's the extreme. If you wanted to establish a whole program or portfolio like he who should not be named did, then you can do that, but you could also just have conversation with people you're already talking to.
Sure.
Right? Anybody else?
Well, I would just like, for my buyers, right, like this, that's a great opportunity. They have the time typically to put into that. So, you know, if you're looking to expand your franchise, get those type of big lead systems kind of put together and then the buyer and have them work that system the same as taking calls and everything else.
So one of the meetings we had, we talked about that. It's like, oh, I can't do this or that because I'm so busy. Well, what do we do to maybe modify how busy we are? In that scenario, it was like, well, I'm doing all of my listings. Man, we got a cheap flat fee listing guy. Have him take all the listings. Now you have freedom to maybe do some networking and do some other things to get 1 or 2 digs. How much is that worth? For the whole year, if you only get 1 or 2 digs because you freed up that time. So leveraging your staff, maybe we as individual owners don't have time. That's a great point. Why? Let's find the time, let's make the time, let's figure out who we need to hire to do what we need to do to make these other things happen. That's a great point.
Through our real estate brokerage, we signed up. Board,
HOA board?
and they just sold us one of their buildings that was previously a house that they had been utilizing as something else. And since that, we've gotten 2 referrals from the community because, hey, the community trusts you, so we should trust you too.
I don't know if you guys heard that online. I've never heard that before. So they have a relationship with an HOA board who ended up selling them a building, or was it a house?
So the house that they had been utilizing as their community.
So it's
library.
converted. Okay. So the house that was used as community library, they ended up selling it to them. And now that the community sees that the HOA trusts these guys, oh, we got a house to sell. That was easy. Why don't we just do that? That's brilliant, especially that was a senior community. That'll work probably better in a senior community. Man, leveraging these senior communities, I was talking about the senior centers where they were going to. That's actually sourcing at the property HOA. That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, if we come together with maybe we work together, maybe we don't on a pitch or some kind of marketing slick would be maybe interesting. Okay, anything else on real estate, agents, kind of referral stuff? What else you got? What else have you experienced outside of real estate agents, referrals, kind of stuff?
Property managers.
Property managers, so rental property managers. Interesting. So they have, I guess, landlords that want to get out of the rental business.
Property manager sent me every other month, I'll get a. So just, yeah, so a landlord who wants to get out, gosh, still they don't want to fix it up, or have a tenant that they had a long-term relationship with, and they're ready to get out, kind of thing, but got quite a few that way.
That's interesting, because I have 4 property managers, and I don't think I've ever asked my property manager if they ever have a landlord trying to get a property, if they ever have a really bad situation. It's like, hey, throw my name out to your, just throw it out there, and maybe there's some compensation that we can offer, some things that we can do. I've never done that. That's a great idea.
Property managers?
Yeah.
I have a comment on property managers.
Yeah, so he said HOA, but he's talking about property managers that disgruntled landlords, something blows up,
And also pass away, the landlord, so I had one where the landlord had 5 properties, passed away, family didn't want to do anything with them, so I got a package deal.
Fantastic.
So regarding property managers, we are now starting to reach out to them. So I'm a firm believer that you shouldn't be asking for a referral unless you provide a value. Provide them a value, and then you can ask for a referral. With property managers, we've been reaching out to them, going, probably not the right fit, but if we had a property that would fit your landlord clients, would you be interested in seeing that and sending that out to your investors? They'll say yes. So win-win-win. We sell property, they get another property managed, and they are the person that presents a deal to their investors. So we're going that direction. And then, oh, by the way, I'm not sure if you ever have a landlord looking to sell a bad rental, but we're here for cash. So that's the angle we're taking on property management right now.
And the back end of that pitch might be, hey, we do buy rentals. So if we pick that up, chances are we, maybe keep it with you as a property manager, maybe you won't, but it's a good pitch.
And that's a good for our vendor list, I think, if we, find these HOA or property managers, we can send them our properties also. They can fast forward them to their investors.
What else? Where else have you found stuff?
Michael,
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
connecting with reverse mortgage, people who set up reverse mortgages.
That's a great one too. I don't know how many of you have gotten a phone call as somebody who has a reverse mortgage. I've had a bunch of them over the years. And so maybe targeting that, the normal course of business, right? It's like, why am I not having that conversation with the person who called me or with their agent or with their finance person? That's
So
brilliant.
Back it up. One of my best friends is one of the largest reverse mortgage guys, and he sends me leads all the time. He's in the house. He's trying to do a reverse mortgage. They need the money for some reason. He's not the right fit, either their age or not enough equity. And then he pivots knowing that I'm in his back pocket.
Absolutely brilliant. Did you have more to share on that, Ally?
Can you say that again, please?
So Ryan, they want you to say that again louder.
I have a very good friend who does reverse mortgages. I have prepped him on how we work. He goes into the appointments. If it's not a right fit for him, he pivots right there and has me in his back pocket as a solution. So I have trained him on what to say, what to do in case he can't give them a loan. He knows their situation, and so he's found their pain and what they need, and then he'll pivot right there and bring me in place of him.
Brilliant.
I took him on a cruise. I took him on a 7-day cruise, and him and his wife. It was about $7,000. Well worth it.
So make sure that you know what you can and can't do compensation wise. I used to have on the back of my business card, referrals, earn $500, and there's certain things and places that you can and can't do that.
Yeah, Michael?
Yep.
So I was just gonna say, we were able to connect with a couple different places where the business is actually like a financial manager who's trying to help somebody to get into a reverse mortgage on a new property. And so the easiest thing for them to do is to try to leverage selling their property quickly and knowing the exact amount they could sell their property for, so that older couples can get into a brand new home, which they put a reverse mortgage on using the money from the sale of their old home, and then are able to be paid for that. So the financial managers like and can trust seeing that we purchase and execute on time and speak to the concept of selling quickly and easily as part of it.
Excellent. So what you guys want to be making note of is what's the value proposition? So when you go to pitch somebody, what's the reason why he's got this guy in his back pocket? If you don't know that, or we need help doing that, we should probably talk about it so we can all figure out what that pitch is. Ally just shared one, right? So what's the messaging? What's the value? What's the reason? We talked about with property managers, with real estate agents. So make sure you have that you're comfortable in what that messaging is. And if you're not, again, maybe we have a separate follow-up workshop, or we have some of you who have done it share some of your pitches. Ryan?
So to add on compensation, honestly, I don't remember the last time I paid a referral fee out. That's actually, I've never really been a conversation for me. I was joking with my friend that took him on a cruise because we are best friends. His wife and my wife are best friends. I was like, you've sent me so many deals, you're going on a cruise. But he's never asking for a referral fee because I provide him value because he is in the house. I've sent him reverse mortgage leads. It's like, it's a value. We scratch each other's back. So I don't remember the last time I paid money for a referral.
And that's a good point. So his first pitch was on the, what were you talking about, the first one?
Property managers.
The property managers, right? That he comes with a win-win partnership, relationship value. It doesn't have to be a check. And if a trip comes after they've sent you a couple.
It doesn't mean I'm not gonna give them a gift or throw them a little money, but that's never been a conversation like, hey man, you have paid me for this lead. I've never had to deal with that.
Yeah, I'm gonna put you on the spot in a minute, so be prepared. Go ahead, Taylor.
We get a lot of deals from wholesalers, and I always track down who the original wholesaler was. because a lot of times they're daisy chained. So I just track down who the original person was and say, hey, because I always demand the original contract.
Well, the original contract's gonna have the original buyer, right? The first buyer. So not the assignment contract, but the purchase agreement.
But on your assignment agreement, it says in there that you need to provide a copy and addendum within 48 hours, 24 hours?
Yep.
Is that what you're saying?
Yep, exactly. And because there's a couple deals where a daisy chained 3 or 4 times and $100,000 was in those. It's like, holy cow, how did these guys picked up the deal? Like I could have, there could have been a win-win there.
I don't remember who it was here. It ended up at one of you two guys that came from a Home Investors franchisee to a third party back to like Gus and Taylor's like, okay, this is just wrong. Right? This, especially from one of us, should never go to a third party before it comes to one of us. I mean, we've got some great buyers. I won't name them all, but we have some great buyers here in the room that will take properties, take them retail, move them out and pay really good money. So we should be sharing with ourselves first, right? So Thea, I see that you are there. I know we got at least one smoke and referral up in Portland. Tell me about your referral source up there.
I'm finding that, well, there's two main sources. One is I've made a great relationship with a probate attorney. He and I sat down and really talked about his business structure, and for him to be a full circle avenue for his clients coming in needing to do probate. He's bringing me all the opportunities where they need to sell, and making a warm introduction to me to meet the homeowners. I've done 2 deals with him in 12 months and looking forward to doing anywhere from 3 to 4 in a year is the goal. I'm bringing him my clients that I meet that have inherited a home and don't know what to do. And so we've got that nice sense of rapport to make the homeowner we're working with feel really protected all the way through the process. So there's that one. And the other area that I get a lot of.
Let me pause you for a second.
Sure.
So on probate, okay, if you don't have a probate attorney in your back pocket, you're missing an opportunity to both service your client and create a relationship. She said this allows them to provide something full service. Without me, there's a hole in their offering. I don't have to give them money. I give them something that says, hey, whatever you need, we can provide it, right? And she gives them also referral business for probate estate stuff. I mean, we all have probate estate title stuff. If you do not have a good attorney in your back pocket that can do the small estate affidavit, mini probates or a full-blown probate, a good probate attorney will make us a lot of money because these deals drag out and they're hard and nobody wants to do the fight. If you don't have a good probate attorney, that should be pretty high on your list. Okay. What's the second one, Thea?
The contractors that I work with that I'm subbing out to, from, my demo team to my painter to my whatever, to my waterproof company, they all have brought me opportunities. That's either someone that they know or they've seen a house, that they kind of end up knowing the neighbor or what have you, and they get me in.
So the first one that we got, I guess it wasn't last year, it was the year before. It was the middle of the year, and I can't remember his name, and we stroked him, I think, a $5,000 check. What was his name?
Let's see. So yeah, it was, that was my waterproofing company. He was going in to deal with moisture in the property and noticed that the homeowners were super nervous about doing any work and introduced me. And then I took over the opportunity. And when we closed on escrow, I gave him 10% of the future projected profit, which was right around $5,000.
Yeah. So I think we assigned that one for like 50 grand.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I signed that one and made 55,000.
A referral from a waterproofing company, right? Mold remediation. A lot of those ambulance chasers don't know if they will or won't, but think about all of the services that are out there dealing with people that have relatively significant issues, right? Massive plumbing, massive electrical, roof, AC, things that are big tickets. That's stressful. Foundation, great one, right? Waterproofing, great one. So you have somebody goes in there that says, oh my gosh, right? Here's a worker says, they just didn't seem like they were ready, willing, or able. There was something going on that wasn't right. It's not like, hey, I'm just dropping a check, take care of it. There was something going on. He referred it to us. We tripped. It was an accident, right? And we got this deal. It's like, oh my goodness. I mean, that was free money, right? So the number of contractors that we're working with, how many of you had those conversations, right? I mean, that's a massive opportunity. That's in the normal course of doing business.
I get leads from a trash out company. Right here.
Oh, that's cheating.
No, it's not cheating though. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, but you hired them. I mean, come on.
I know, but it's a trash out company. And we bought houses.
We bought 2 in the last 6.
Okay, trash out company, I mentioned that a couple times already. How many of you called trash out guys since I mentioned it? You want to talk about an opportunity that is ripe? Think about what they're doing, right? I mean, so you guys know, none of this works if you write it on your pad and flip the sheet for the next meeting. This does take a certain amount of discipline and effort. Ryan always says, I'm never too busy for your referrals. He's fantastic at it. He's built a pretty decent business around that, okay? Most of us just don't do it. Normal course of business, just try to make it a standard operating procedure to say, hey, by the way, come up with an idea. How can I help you? How can we establish these relationships?
Our best deal came from me walking out of a really bad appointment and seeing a Roto-Rooter truck across the street and being like, well, okay, I'm supposed to be knocking the houses or right around the house anyways. So I went over there and it turned into a $126,000 assignment.
$126,000 assignment because he walked across because there was a Roto-Rooter van at the house. How many houses and Roto-Rooter vans are you willing to chase for a $126,000 assignment? Okay.
Just follow that guy around.
Yeah. I thought about it.
Yeah.
So, he mentioned something, right? He said, we're supposed to, when we buy a house, we just wrote a contract. We're supposed to, what? Knock on 5 doors each side and 10 across the street. That's 20 contacts you just made. You're already in the neighborhood. You're already buying in the neighborhood. You're going to be working in the neighborhood. You got contacts in the neighborhood, right?
Let me add to that. When you close on the house, I believe you should do that. And then when you are about to go on the market, you knock on the same doors again, so you touch them twice. Our first contact with them, we're providing them a value. This is what we're doing. This is what's going to happen. We're going to be remodeling a house. Not sure if you ever need it, but we have all the trades, as you can tell. If you ever need a plumber, electrician, anyone, call me, because I work with you guys every single day. So down the road, call me. Oh, by the way, if you ever sell the house, give me a call. First contact. On house goes to the market. Hey, you want to come see it? We fully rehabbed it. Come take a look at it. You have a buyer. Oh, by the way, don't forget, I have all the preferred vendors. Right about it.
And if you're really lazy, I have for sale signs I put in the yard, and we just bought the neighbor's house because I didn't knock it. But because of the for sale sign, we bought the neighbor's house.
He said that, Ryan said all the time. If you're not putting a sign in the yard of every house that you have either under contract or own in inventory, you're missing an opportunity to have a personal billboard on each of those houses. When we talk about option contracts and assignments later, I'll talk to you about how in the day back in 2005 and 6, we were writing options like crazy because we were getting outbid by everybody. So we just like, give me a number, I'll write an option and I'll send it out to my list, because we had 3,000 buyers that were chomping at the bit too. And what would happen is we put a sign in the yard while we were marketing it. We'd cancel the assignment because nobody wanted it, and we'd end up buying the neighbor's house. I mean, in the normal course of business. This isn't doing any extra work, right? Okay,
I have one more one. I guess I don't see it on the list. Are you buying houses from you happy sellers?
like, when you were out, I talked about always never too busy for your referrals. Right? Your seller's happy experience. How many of you have bought houses from family, friend, relative, contact? Somebody calls up, says, hey, my neighbor sent, they know somebody who did it, so they called you. Right? Okay, so that's happening on accident. What if you were proactive and got them to call you instead of the 800
They're in
number?
your database, the happy sellers. Are you staying in contact with them and asking them for referrals because they sold you their house?
I think he's the first person that told me he sends Christmas cards to people who he already bought houses from.
I said thank you cards. I don't celebrate Christmas, so I don't.
You're right, sorry. Thank you, sorry. My bad.
Yeah, but I will tell you that something that has worked, I think you mentioned it last year. This time of year, people doing their taxes and stuff,
There you go.
their settlement statements.
There you go.
I did that last week, just right, to a guy I already had a pretty good rapport with. I just said, hey, just want to, I'm so happy you called and searching the house for this damn thing. So anyway, thrilled with it. And I mean, just kind of keep that rapport, like you said. with
So what he's mentioning is around tax time to send your previous sellers a copy of their settlement statement, right? Just say, hey, by the way, it's tax time. You're probably going to need this. It's just an excuse to be in front of them. Okay? You're not
So good.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Anything else? This is great stuff. And we're not all going to do all of these things, right? So find something that's comfortable. If you are an attorney, what an easy conversation to go and have with other attorneys, right? If you're a master at rehab, what an easy way to have a conversation with all of your vendors, right? Just figure out what's in your wheelhouse and just maybe lean into that. Just it's the slight edge stuff that we get from Sandler, right? Just one little thing. It's those small modifications that increase our buy percentages and get these dig leads done. You stole my trash out one. That's the one that I was holding in my pocket. My Matt Manager with Fort Peak sent me 3 leads for guys that he trashed out. And unfortunately, they didn't work out, but they were good deals. It was, anyway. So I know there's opportunities there. Anything else? Networking, dig leading.
One thing, our close ratio for our dig lead is just over 50%.
Wow. So referrals that come to you from the network, about 50%.
Yeah. So I think that relationship or whatever that pitch is really valuable in that not only are they relatively inexpensive buys, you can close them.
Well, and
Those are our best.
Yeah.
buys, Usually.
Which ones are your best buys?
they're dig.
These days.
I thought we went through you guys' numbers and we determined that home investor leads were deeper.
That was him.
No, your spreadsheet, I think, okay.
Okay. They were good buys.
You would know
Maybe they
your
weren't the
buys,
best buys. They were good buys. So don't, again, discount the fact that home investors, We Buy Ugly Houses has power. Okay. So whether it's the relationship, whether it's the pitch, there's something to be said with we are home investors. We have brand recognition in most markets that is valuable. That's why I drive around in my car and I wear this shirt. Again, if you've done it, I know you've been stopped at the bank, you've been stopped at the store, you've been stopped at the restaurant. Oh, you're the ugly house guy. You can decide whether or not you move and lean into that conversation with a 30-second Sandler commercial or not. If you don't have a good 30-second Sandler commercial, you might want to work on that because this networking stuff works best with a good 30-second Sandler commercial. Okay, so if that doesn't make sense to any of you, talk to Ryan and I offline. But there's a tremendous amount of value of being who we are and having success and having the Google reviews. And that email review you got, man, that should be in your, when you're there closing that deal and you're now built, you're at the end of the Sandler process. Look at this. Somebody mailed this to me. They were so happy. They couldn't even do it online. They mailed it to me. That's how happy, they went the extra mile. Right? I would lean into that. Okay. Any other ideas? Great stuff. Yeah.
There's a lot of investors like us that are partnering with contractors and home builders and stuff. Like, we all know, I think we know a lot of builders and contractors, and partnering with them, building these new builds. That's one thing that we've done. I think we got 4 of them going right now. But we've partnered with the new home builders, these contractors, and we're about to list one right now, and it's gonna be an awesome deal for us. We got 3 in the process, so.
So I've got JV up here somewhere on one of these sheets. If you can hang on to that, I want to come back to that, talk about
It's
how.
kind of like a different
It's
strategy.
another
different way.
opportunity to
Yep.
get, yeah. So JV opportunities, networking, I talked about potential investors, potential buyers, potential sellers. Let me circle back around to that. So when I say potential or wannabe, somebody who has money either wants to try to be a real estate investor or they want to get a return on that money. Oh, I'm sorry, I left out lender. So potential buyer, potential seller, potential investor, potential lender, or wannabe. So if they have money, they don't have the time, they don't have resources, they can't, right? They can potentially be a resource for you to move property. They're also a potential resource for you to use their money. They're also a potential resource to get into partnerships with, at one way or the other. We had in this council a great JV partnership where one person bought the house, the other franchisee ran the whole rehab, and they both split a lot more than they thought they were going to get. Okay, fantastic opportunities. Man, lean into that. Lean into that here, lean into that elsewhere. That's a fantastic idea. Okay. I got introduced to his partners because I was assigning them deals at a slight reduced price off of my assignment, what I wanted to get. And then we would split the profit on the back end after they finished rehabbing. So I got my money up front and then got more money when they were done. And they got deals and made money. We were both very happy. But then they looked at what I paid for it and bought a franchise. So JV deals, partnerships, I mean, win-win, right? It's profit. So, and they know how to do rehabs, I don't, so. Okay. Great stuff. Anything else to add? We got a ton to do, right? Just out of 45 minutes or whatever talking about this. Are we good? Anything else somebody wants to do?
I have MLS groups set up on my favorite areas, places I've bought that I've really loved and right around my house, my old house, and different areas. I get 6 to 8 new emails a day, anything with fixer-upper, investor special, needs work, get it. And usually they're picked over, but if I really like the area and I like them, like the one I just picked up, I went and walked through, and of course I got outbid. We got all these 21-year-old investors running around Tulsa. And it came out the very next day, but I just walked it, so I called him within seconds. I'm like, I'll take it. So, so you know what's going on in that area at any given time. You don't even have to run comps because you're familiar. You're looking at it every day.
So if you're an agent, you have MLS access, that's a world you're comfortable with, and you want to set up the searches and you want to do retail stuff. For those of you who do rehabs like Heidi does really well, great opportunity. For me, I know how competitive it is, and I know there's a half a dozen guys that have software already set up to take those and automatically send out offers. It's super competitive. It's super hard. You can chase them and you'll find a couple. I'm still shocked at how many guys are buying stuff off of the MLS with all of that. I mean, again, I don't want to discount it. That's not my wheelhouse, but there's absolute success.
You'll get rookie investors. The last one I bought, he listed it at like 4 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. Well, most of these guys aren't really working it.
Yeah.
So, and I knew the neighborhood, so I was able to snap it fast.
Knowing the neighborhood is another thing, right? If you know this is in my sweet spot, it's an area, and Ryan's done the Sponte, I know that, I just sold one down, we've done 2 or 3, right? You don't have to do a whole lot of research. That's a really good thing to do also. Okay, other thoughts, comments, input, ideas? Good stuff. Excellent. Okay, so we will close the door on the digleading networking stuff. Again, if you have questions, need clarification, want a couple ideas, we can, in the PPG group, we can share some wording and verbiage if we want help there, if that's beneficial. Rising tide raises all ships, right? So, I mean, we shouldn't have 40 people trying to come up with the pitch, right? Okay.
Or logos will buy houses for you also. I bought 2 houses from wearing this.
Were you on when I said that?
I'm so sorry. I'm a huge fire.
All right. UGG apparel, UGG cars, UGG wraps, UGG vans, UGG signs, UGG hats. I mean, there's no reason to be wearing a Springs Realty jacket. Go ahead.
But so here is a question for the group though. So I do send out, I target 2 neighborhoods for my real estate brokerage. We specifically specialize in 2 neighborhoods. And is it competing with the council if I put in, we have cash buyers if you don't want to sell?
Yes.
Okay.
So let's talk about that. So when we talk about dig lead and networking, going back to the traditional dig lead, driving houses one by one, you can drive a house, take a snapshot, put it on a list, and you can mail that list. You cannot buy a neighborhood. You can't go to your title company and have them give you a list. You can't mail to a procured list. You can mail to a developed list, one by one, added to based on you identifying houses that might need work. Okay, so that's the difference in mail. Now, if we as a group say, hey, we're not going to target a city, a community, a zip code, a property value, any of that kind of stuff, you can, if the council is not, that's not competing with the council, okay? You're supposed to have the conversation here like that first, okay? So, so you can't mail to a subdivision or an area or a zip code, okay?
I mean, we target that neighborhood for our brokerage sites. We're always showing our lead, you know, our featured listings, that kind of stuff.
Now, if you are having conversations and in the part of conversation, you want to do some networking or drop referrals or drop absolute, wear your shirt, I mean, however you want to do that in the order of business, it's okay.
I just can't say we have cash buyers because I'm sure you'd be the one buying it.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, you can't.
We have bought 6 or 7 homes in this neighborhood now, so we're like, man, there's clearly a need.
Maybe you could go buy cash and then refer to my franchise, and I'll give you a spit.
And you sell to me.
So,
I'll take the $120,000 sign.
yeah. Okay. So we're gonna put the networking, continuing business referrals is what we're talking about here, right? That ongoing relationship building stuff. We'll put that to bed now. Everybody online cool? Okay. So, how much time we got? 24 minutes. 24 minutes is probably not enough to dive into
Creative financing and financing.
Creative buying and financing, wraps, all this stuff, that's way more than 25 minutes. Okay, so let's take 20 or 25 minutes to touch on some stuff. And then we'll have that be the next meeting. And if we have time, whatever the next thing is on our list, okay? Are we okay with that? Okay. Unless everybody wants to spend more time, which is another option, but it has to be unanimous.
You want to ask now? We're here, I don't mind.
Do you guys want to vote now if we spend more time, or do you want to see how it feels after 25
I
minutes?
wonder what the creative side feels. Is that something that, instead of going off the cuff here, we can maybe lightly talk about it or get some questions and come back?
I like that better. I like that better. So let's do this. Let's hit it high level, kind of in these areas. Absolutely, no question. Let's hit the high level. Make sure that we jot down any questions or anything that we need to develop for the next conversation, because this is huge, massively beneficial stuff. Okay. So Brian's going to scribe for us. Okay, so we'll start right at the top. Okay, when you're in an appointment, okay, lots of situations where sellers, maybe it's a thinner deal, right? Interest rates have been crazy low. I had a guy that did a VA loan at 2, I think it was 2.25 or something, right? And he had done it 3 years ago. He's 3 years into this 2.25 loan, the payment's super low. Principal, starting to go in. It's a thin deal, but man, I could buy that house with his financing in place. And his loan, because it was so low, allows me to rent it with a positive cash flow and get principal buy down without anything on my credit. Everybody understand that? Existing financing left in place. Okay, and you can do that two ways. Subject to or a wrap. Okay? Subject to says, I'm buying it. Subject to, the title company's going to say, hey, we're not going to insure against that piece. I'm buying it subject to that financing. So I'm on the hook for that piece. I'm buying subject to that financing, which you also do in a wrap. But subject to says, that's it. And then I'm going to make the payments. I'm going to make payments directly to the bank. A lot of times I'll get their sign on and I'll do an ACH draft on their sign on directly from my account. And I'll tell them I'm going to do that. So they know that I'm making their payments. Okay. Subject to. A wrap is where the title company, and some title companies, blows my mind, but some title companies think we'll do wraps but not sub twos. Some title companies will do sub twos and not wraps. Title companies that'll do assignments but not double closes, simultaneous close. You have title companies that do double closes, not assignments. And I've had the title companies argue with me that it's illegal to do the other thing. I've had First American, 2 different branches in Northern California, same title company in Northern California, one do the other. They wouldn't do because it's illegal. Okay, so title companies, title officers maybe aren't all that. But so a wrap says the title company will take the underlying financing and say, okay, this is a note, there's $120,000 left. It's a 5% interest rate, and it's 20-year term. They will create a new note and deed of trust between you and the seller that says, I've got a 120, whatever the amount was, I said, at 5% on a 20-year term, and I sign a note and deed of trust with you, the seller, that can be foreclosable if I don't make those payments, because I have an obligation through that note and deed of trust with the seller. The seller has a note and deed of trust with the bank, right? That's wrapping. It's an exact wrap, exactly wrapping what's in that financing. And generally speaking, in that scenario, we use a trusted third party, which is a title company. A lot of times there's a loan servicing company that will take those payments. They hold the release. They keep track of the payments. They handle all of that stuff. Sub twos.
Is that the biggest benefit of the wrap is the seller knowing they can foreclose?
Yeah, so when I do one or the other, is when I have somebody says, I don't know, and it's this total Sandler. Probably doesn't make sense for you. We've had, in this scenario, we had a case where somebody's like, I don't need the credit. I don't need the loan. I'm not buying anything else. And all like, hey, I'm going to go move into a home. I'm never going to buy another house. Well, do you care what happens with this loan? I can't buy it. Man, I can wrap it. Okay. And for them to be comfortable and, well, what happens if they said, what happens if you don't pay it? What happens if this? What happens if that? Okay. And to answer those questions, right, will lead one way or the other. If they're comfortable, they're like, oh, I trust you. I love you. You're saving my life. Hey, and you can choose who pays for the servicing. It's usually 15 or 20 bucks a month to manage those payments, the servicing company and title company. So it's more, I won't say legal, they're both legal, right? One is more secure, thank you. One's more secure. Great Sandler approach there. So one, right, is if they just sleep better at night, and it's actually in either case, I'm gonna give them whatever they need to sleep good at night. That makes sense? Okay. Did you have another question?
Yes, at a later date, I don't think we have time now, but I would love to see some role plays, how to intelligently present that to a seller.
Exactly. So we're gonna, a lot of this stuff, when we get to options and assignments and talk about the psychology of the seller, I mean, we have to talk about how we say what we say, the approach, what's the feeling, and because that's the stuff that's gonna take a lot of time. Okay. In 25 minutes, we're just gonna make sure we understand what these things are so you guys can come up with the questions that you want to have. So are there any questions about sub twos and wraps that we need to make sure we cover next time?
If they want money out, is that when are you setting up a monthly payment to them?
So if they want money out, typically I'm cashing them out something less than 10 grand. My limit was 10, except I bought one at 20 because it was just, I mean, there was $700 a month going towards principal on this really deep loan. He'd had it for 15 years. And I'm like, I mean, I can't buy that loan. I mean, this was years ago when interest rates were.
But the beauty, I think, of that is I just bought one in December, sub two, and the lady's like, I don't want 100 grand tax bill next year. I said, well, I'll give you 20 grand a year for the next 5 years.
So we are not CPAs. And I don't believe that solves that problem,
Oh, okay.
but that's her problem.
That's right.
So there may or may not be some tax benefits to the seller. I don't know. If you want to learn that and try to pitch it, just CYA.
I always look at it on a cash basis of return, so I'll spend 50 if I'm getting enough money cash
Yeah.
for a while back.
Yeah, so-
I'll spend 50 cash and take over the deal, just not set at 10 or whatever, right, so.
Eric's quiet, so I'll repeat what he said. It makes sense sometimes to spend a lot of money and leave your cash in play. If you're making it, $600-700 a month in positive cash flow, and you're like, man, I can't get that from a rental. I'll put my 50 grand here and take that cash flow. Right? So absolutely. I mean, business decisions, financial decisions, that's a great question. I have had cases where we switched it from a sub two or a wrap and went to seller financing, right? Where as part of that, like a wrap or sub two, you say, okay, well, yeah, I'm going to do a deal with you that's a little higher than your loan. So you are getting a little bit out of that over the life of the loan. So you can do some creative things. We'll get into some details there. Okay. So we all understand sub two and wrap. If you have any questions, either bring them up now or send them to us. So if there's that kind of stuff, how and what happens if, and we'll talk about a lot of that stuff. Okay. Lease, so we just talked, let me jump to seller financing. So seller financing is pretty much anytime you go into a part of your standard operating procedure. It's a normal course of business. Ask them what their plans are with the money. That should be part of your Sandler process anyway in the budget step. What are your plans? What are you doing with it? Where is this going? Are you buying? Are you going to be renting? What kind of time frame? All of that kind of conversation should be naturally part of your engagement. And if it doesn't come up, you can throw out there a little seed that says, hey, don't know, probably wouldn't work for you. But we have sometimes people sell their house and they know their house, they know what it's worth, and they finance it because they're going to take their money and put it in the bank at 0.5%. I'll pay at least twice that. So we get loans at 2, 3, 4%. Most of my loans are 6. Okay. So seller finance, I've done a bunch of them. It's conversational. It's easy if you're comfortable with it. It's not weird because it's just part of, hey, what are you gonna do with it? Maybe I can help you out. I would be a blessing to you instead of 0.5%, or what money market's 1%. What if I tripled that? My money cost me more. By the way, if we do this, I may even be able to give you a little bit more for the house because I'm not having to pay the bank. That's been my excuse all along. I don't care. I'm just making
How
stuff
do you
up.
structure that when you close?
How do we structure that when we close is what Heidi wants to know.
You're not getting the money
You might get some of it.
because you would have had to take out a loan.
Yeah. It all depends. So we're going to find out how we structure that and how they get money and how much and all that kind of stuff when we come back to seller financing. But seller financing is a fantastic opportunity for you to get cheaper money and make more deals, make more sense. And it's an excuse. I do not give up anything. If I give it up, I give it up hard. I don't give up anything to a seller without getting something in return. I get time consideration, I get money consideration in seller financing, I get an MG 1950 Roadster as consideration. I'm getting something. Harley Davidson. I mean, I go through this lawnmowers. Oh, that's the stuff. I mean, seriously, I don't need a lawnmower, but they will have to give me their lawnmower, right? It's something. It's just part of it's just a natural process. And a lot of times it's fun for me, but okay. So that's seller financing.
Michael, so does the title company, will the title company service that? They set that up?
A lot of title companies do have servicing arms. Yeah, loan servicing, a lot of the escrow companies.
Is that how you would do it if you were doing a?
That's how I've done it best. I ended up having a loan servicing called loan servicing. Was doing a couple of mine, and so then I did a couple with them. Actually, I had a loan that I was doing on a note on another guy, and I used them for some other stuff, but yeah, title companies and there's third parties. That do it. That's just part of the negotiation. Are we gonna do this? How are we gonna do it? You know, who's paying for the loan servicing? What kind of deal are we getting? All that kind of stuff. Okay, lease purchase. Lease purchase should be both under the buying side and the selling side. Okay, a lease purchase just says, I'm engaging in a lease with an option to buy, or I'm selling you, or I'm leasing you a house with an option to buy. And that comes in a lot of different forms and varieties. Do they pay an option fee? Is the purchase price locked in or not? There's a bunch of stuff that can go into that we will drill into at a future date. Anybody not understand a lease purchase? Anybody have specific questions that we make sure we cover on a lease purchase?
There are a lot that can go wrong also.
Well, let me give you one example.
No,
One I will
we don't want to have an example. The question is there stuff that can go wrong?
do though. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so, so the question is, are there a lot of things that can go wrong? The answer is abso-freaking-lutely. I will share examples as well as Derek will when we get into them. If you think that you want to get into a lease option, don't do it without knowing how, why, and how to protect yourself and when it makes sense and when it doesn't. If you come across one you think that might make sense, talk to us about it if it's before the next meeting, okay? But we're gonna get mired in examples because I've got a bunch of them too. Okay, so any other questions on lease purchase stuff? Okay. Last two. JV, I mentioned earlier, we've had positive success here in our group doing joint venture deals. We have positive success doing joint venture deals with third parties. Does anybody not understand, having had the previous conversations, why that makes sense? How and structured and deals and when is what we'll get into next time. But everybody understands what it is and why it makes sense? Awesome. You guys online are awfully quiet. Okay. Last one we have here, options and assignments. I love options and assignments. I am the self-proclaimed master of options and assignments back in the day. I'm 100% wholesale, don't option assign anything now, okay? But I love this for any opportunity that I'm not gonna win with a home investor's buy. I love this for opportunities where I'm in that zone. Alex and I were talking about a deal last night or the night before, whenever it was, but where it's close and the range. And I think, man, if I'll get it signed up, get a contract, go shop it, come back. I mean, there's all sorts of time and negotiation. The psychology of the seller and your relationship with seller changes at that point. Your opportunity to market and do things at that point changes because you have a legal right versus doing it under the. We are not going to give examples today unless we have time and unless you guys, here's the thing. We can all stay and dive into any of these if we're all willing. I just don't want to lose half of you.
I know some people have to leave, so we could do a hard stop and then if you want to have a sidebar conversation.
We can do a sidebar for anything that's burning. I just don't want to lose half of you and then I mean, this is really, really good stuff, right? And have you not get the benefit of 20 people who have done some of these things often, okay? So, so option contracts and assignments, okay? Anybody not know what an option contract is? Well, just real quick, I use a standard real estate purchase agreement with verbiage in there that says I have the right to cancel without cause, without recourse. And that I'm entering into the agreement for the sole purpose of marketing this property for sale. I've written that so many times and said it so many times, it just, I mean, It's been years and it still is like, right? All that says is they're obligated, they're on the hook. I'm not. Why does that work? Well, because I'm using their number. I'm giving them everything they want. In my conversation with, I'm going to take this and see if I can get you what you want. And one of 3 or 4 things is going to happen. And we have a solid upfront contract about all of the potential future things that might happen. I bring the future to the present and it's all laid out and there's no surprises. Complete expectations are, I mean, it's a beautiful, fantastic thing.
That every time. And it works.
Okay, and it works. And sometimes we end up buying them close to the number that we were gonna buy them.
What do you ask for?
She said, any,
I'll play an example after.
yeah, so I'll let her give you an example, so we all understand, but anytime, and you can't, so here's the thing, I had a franchisee that was really good at this. He bought a ton of houses and made like $3,000 to $5,000 on each one. Could not buy a house at the Home Investors numbers. You're really, really careful. So in the training, so again, I want to give you enough. If you think there's an opportunity, please call me, call Ryan. Let's talk about it. You got to make sure, you got to let Sandler and the system do what Sandler's system does. Dalton and I went out on his first buy appointment. They had 5, 6, 10, 11 vendors. I don't know, guys coming through. He's talking to them because the first 3 have fallen out. You don't want to go in and say, well, what's your highest number? Let me take an option at the highest number. Although it might make sense sometimes. You're gonna have to come back to that. Okay, so there's a balance here. You got to really be comfortable and confident that you have let Sandler and the process do its thing. And then figure out next time how to transition and kind of shift hats. Heidi is going to share an example because we like hearing from her better than Derek anyway.
Sorry, I'll go fast. I go all through the Sandler, I push. Finally, the guy settled on 370 and I can't see any more than 420 ARV and it needs a bunch of work. And so then I switch hats and I'm like, you know what? I got a lot of investor contracts. Why don't you give me a week and see if I can move it at 370? If I can't, cancel on me. Like, okay, great. I threw it out and within seconds, I bumped it to 390. And within seconds, Gus grabbed it. He's like, I'll take that. I'm like, I don't know how. I don't know why. But I did it 3 times last year too, where I'm like, no one's gonna buy it. And they took it.
Well, she had some, her first year that were equitable title, which I don't have on here. I should put that on there if you want to make a note of equitable title for me, Ryan. Equitable title, you write a contract, you have the right to market that contract on the MLS. In Arizona, I don't know the other states. So you could put that, she's done that.
Yeah,
Write a contract, put it on the MLS and then sold them retail.
That showings or did you?
It was vacant. So I let them know, hey, I'm gonna have my
With-
contractors in.
With a
and
good
out.
upfront contract, it doesn't have to be, right? As long as they understand what's going on and they get their number. We've had people, an ex-franchisee who was really, really good at this. Just by setting up the right expectations.
You can sell them on the MLS without having closed on the title.
Come for the next meeting, we'll let you know. Yes.
This is like a teaser meeting the whole time. This is a teaser meeting.
We went through a bunch of networking stuff.
The answer is yes. The answer is
The answer is yes.
We'll show you how and why and the button you push in the MLS.
Are we talking about the next ad council meeting next
Well,
month?
so we have 3 minutes. I got 3 minutes to say some stuff too.
Okay. So the answer is yes. Come to the next meeting.
Yes, sir.
We give you a lot on the networking stuff, so
Check.
quit pitching. Okay, so I'll leave one last note, the same thing.
By my book.
By my book. The same thing with this conversation I was having with Alex, right? They had a property, made an offer. Guys saying, hey, you know, they think the ARV is like 415, 420, 425-ish, right? And they make an offer, don't get the deal. The guy puts it on the market, sells it retail at I think 415. Retail, as is, right? So one of a couple of things, and this is a learning opportunity, which is why in our sessions, we talk about high lows, we take that and say, okay, did we have the wrong ARV? Was there a chance that if the guy wanted 370 or 380, it's like, there's no way I'm going to pay 380 for a house that needs $25,000 worth of work that's only worth 415. But what if I'd written an option contract on that thing at 470, 480 or 370, 380 and was able to sell it at 415? Is there money there? If you're your own agent or you have a flat fee, I mean, the answer is yes, right? Now, we will also caution you not to do a bunch. I mean, well, if you're not exposed, that's a whole different issue, but we'll table that. Next meeting.
What's the difference between an option contract and like a net listing?
Okay, net listings are illegal in some states. Net listings are really frowned upon. And there's very little difference in that if you are taking equitable title, I mean, you're not acting as an agent,
Yeah.
right? So there's no agency fiduciary representation kind of stuff going on. But I'd be really careful on net listings. It's just,
The Department of Real Estate likes to look very closely into that list.
why they allow them, but say, we don't, I mean, it's just stupid.
So
But
I know a huge buyer in town that does net listings and then sends them to hedge. They have a direct connection to hedge
Absolutely.
funds that they're just sending them
Absolutely.
constantly. And that's,
And the funds, when we talk about exit strategies, the funds is another thing that we all will continue to work on. Maybe part of the investor group, maybe not, but there's a massive opportunity there. I broke my pen, but
Real quick here, I'd like to know who has done option contracts and assignments in here? Okay, that's easy, all right. Who's done a lease purchase in here? Okay. Wraps and sub twos. You guys have done a lot, okay? Well, good, there's more than I thought, so I'm gonna lean on you guys to share your example. So if you've done these, the next meeting, I'd like to hear how you guys do them and share with us the pros and the cons of doing all those, okay?
and the horror stories, save it.
Do we, so regarding the ad council meetings, I need to do a better job on giving us more time. I'm so sorry it's rushed, but I need to do a better job, so I'm gonna probably extend that at least another half an hour. Do we want the best practices to be here? Do you guys want us, we're here, do you want to stay here? You want to go till 2 o'clock, 10 to 2?
I say less than stay efficient.
Efficient in which area?
I think that's kind of, give us.
I mean, if you're good with what just happened, right, cover what we can cover and have the other stuff come to the next meeting, fine with us, right? We don't want you guys drowning and glazing over and not taking notes and not being engaged. So it's more important to enjoy and benefit from the time and come back next time than it is for us to force feed.
I'd prefer another 30 minutes on the ad council meeting because there's a whole bunch of smart minds in here that I'd rather bounce stuff off of or hear ideas from rather than a one-off, I'm just talking to you. Yeah, Jason may have a great idea or anybody could have a great idea on something like, oh, maybe that's a better approach than being offline things. I'd rather it be a group thing and then say, hey, it's 2 hours. If we ended an hour and a half, that's fine. I don't need to sit here for 2 hours. But you have a big group of people jumping online, have that start if it's 30 minutes.
Yeah, we can take longer. Lunch can be the buffer.
And that's what we're trying to do for today. And yes, I want to be more efficient too. But also I think that we have topics of the month. They need to be sent to me so I can be prepared to put them on the agenda. And things that are being brought up, it's like, a lot of topics I think being brought up, they should have been brought up before, and so be
So
prepared.
we don't normally shut you down that way. We have we get mired, we get in the weeds a lot,
For
so.
sure. I think the challenge being though, that I don't have these thoughts until I'm in here and I hear someone bring something.
Yeah.
In the thought, I don't sit at home like, oh yeah, I need to talk, like, I'm too busy with all the other crap. That's not my mind.
Sorry we shut you down. I'll give you a hug afterwards.
So how about this? I need more time, but like with Low today, it's like, it was just ask her specific questions and not like it brainstorm. I need to have an open discussion where we go, okay, let's talk about it, brainstorm, write it down.
So for this, for the best practices, which I apologize that Brad's sending out Home Investors Best Practices. I'm trying to get him to stop doing that. This peak performers group, Ryan and ISDAs, for the 40 franchisees we have, is the best practices that we're gonna do once a month is the goal, okay? For you guys to share, for us to share, for us to just elevate each other. We have targeted 90 minutes. We can make it 2 hours, but we just need commitments, or we just make it 90 minutes. We do what we can do in 90 minutes and take another 90, right?
Oh, here's the 90 for best practices?
Yeah,
Okay.
and if we have
Oh,
time-
here's the other thing too. I'm gonna start the ad council meeting at 10 o'clock. That's an issue. We didn't start till 10:20, 10:25. So I'm gonna start at 10.
I still think we initiate the penalty, $1 for every minute you're late. And the people that are here get to share.
We get here early and make $1.
and whoever's here gets to, whoever's here gets to divvy up what goes in the pot.
Another time that we pay $1, we could be up.
Okay, we'll put that in the, notes and we'll vote on it next month. Okay, any other questions or comments? So it sounds like what we have is we will commit to have a little more time in the ad council meeting. That's better for the people online, so we're not pushing them. We've done that twice now. I'm sorry to everybody online that we had to push it. So we'll be more on time there. We'll use lunch as the buffer between the two meetings so you can get up and eat and talk and everything else. The best practices that we do with these topics going forward will be 90 minutes after lunch, okay? And we're gonna try to keep too much of the side conversation or the meeting after the meeting, we reduce that so that way everybody can benefit from that stuff, okay?
Do we want to meet at 9:30 for that council meeting? They want to post a meeting earlier? I mean, do you guys want to get out of here earlier
I
today?
don't want to be earlier because I don't want to eat lunch at 10 o'clock. 10:30, like, I don't like.
Okay, so that council needs to be an hour and a half. Okay,
Thanks, everyone.
are there any parting comments from anybody online? Anything that we missed? Anything you want to add?
I'm in for 9:30 as well. Yeah. there you
All
go.
right, thanks, everybody. Go network.
I'm gonna take some notes